So, with all the conversations we've been having about guys taken at the top of the 2022 NHL entry draft, there is one name on one team that, considering my personal preferences of players that I like, teams that I like, etc., etc., it's kind of interesting noting how little we talk about him. And so what I wanted to do in this video is go over an interesting idea thrown around in Sweden about this guy and the team that he has been drafted by. It is my third favorite team and their top prospect from the 2022 NHL draft, a guy taken out of the Regla BK system. And if you've been following the prospects and you know the Red Wings and their development, Regla has been pretty good to Detroit in terms of their prospect development. Let's head over to the 8th overall spot and talk about a guy in Marco Kasper. A center who isn't really a Swede, but he's playing in Sweden. He's Austrian instead. 6'1", 192 is a left-handed guy, taken, as we had said, by the Red Wings in the 8th overall spot. Now, the reason we're making a video about Kasper today is because we had ourselves an article published on Expressen.se, which is a Swedish journalistic platform, by Sanny Lindstrom. Now, if you don't know who Sanny Lindstrom is, I don't really blame you if you're not too familiar here. He's a guy that's mostly known as a journalist nowadays for Swedish hockey outlets, but he was a Swedish hockey player himself, playing over a decade in the AHL, ECHL, UHL, Swiss Hockey League, and the Swedish League before it was renamed to just the SHL. He also suited up for Team Sweden at the World Juniors alongside of some pretty notable twins in Henrik and Daniel Sedin. But Lindstrom was a guy that has spent a boatload of time playing pro hockey in Europe as well as in North America. He has this column every few days on Expressen.se where he talks about the team of the week. He talks about different things going on in the SHL and just kind of highlights noteworthy points that make sense to talk about here. This is the most recent article of the Team of the Week segment by Lindstrom, been down in the basement and turned around. Now, of course, this is translated from Swedish into English, so there might be some things lost in translation, but the article will be linked in the description if you want to go ahead and read this. If you take a look at the Team of the Week, he talks about Anders Lindbach playing for Brynäs. By the way, you remember Anders Lindbach? Yeah, it's been a while since we've talked about him. I don't think we've ever talked about him on the channel before. He talks about William Wallinder on Regla as a member of the Team of the Week on defense, also a Red Wings prospect, and he ends up writing about how Wallinder has been very good. There's more conversations going on. Adam Tambellini is mentioned. Robert Roseanne from Vecqua is mentioned. Tom Kuhnackel is here too. Remember him? Yeah, that guy's playing for Skellefteå, so that's interesting to note too, yeah? This week's Rookie of the Team of the Week is Marco Kasper. He goes from strength to strength. Take care of him and enjoy. Next year, Kasper will play in the NHL. That's it. That's the reason we're making this video, because an analyst of Swedish hockey on a Swedish platform is going out there and saying that Kasper is good enough to play in the National Hockey League next season, and this writer is guaranteeing that that is going to be the case. Now, if you want to go over to Marco Kasper and acknowledge what he has done this season so far with Regla, in the 34-game sample that he has had, he's got 18 points, 6 goals, 12 assists. He is on pace for 27 points in 52 games played. And honestly, while the numbers may not be all too impressive, this is a really good player. And it shows off more in the game tape than in the point production itself. I mean, take a look at Lucas Raymond after he was drafted by the Red Wings in the 4th overall spot. The guy followed that draft season up with an 18-point year in 34 games played with Frölunda before making the Red Wings this season after that. And if you've been paying attention, that is exactly the same amount of points as Kasper has right now in the exact same amount of games played too. And they're both at the exact same goals and assist rates. It's kind of freaky, acknowledging how close everything is. And I think everybody also remembers how much of a beast Lucas Raymond was immediately stepping into the NHL after that last SHL year. And so for Marco Kasper, I don't want to go out there and say guaranteed that Kasper is the same type of player as Lucas Raymond, but I really do feel like Kasper has so many qualities that allow him to be an NHL caliber player as soon as next year. He is just such a safe player, and he makes the right decision 95% of the time. Even if you watch a lot of his tape as of late, the guy is able to fly around the zone, even in his own zone. He's able to shift around, head behind his net, calm the play down, make the proper plays on breakouts, and even though European hockey, especially in Sweden, is played on much larger ice, Marco Kasper's speed and his agility makes him look like he's playing on NHL surfaces already. It's kind of weird to explain, but the guy is able to maneuver around the ice in a way that really allows him to capitalize on everything that's there. Not to mention the decision-making, the offensive prowess. He's got a really good mind for stepping up and intercepting passes. He knows how to make the proper reads in the offensive zone. He goes to the net when he doesn't have the puck. He's just such a strong player when it comes to making hockey decisions that even though he wasn't necessarily touted as a top 8 guy, you had outlets like McKeen's ranking him at number 24, Bob McKenzie had him at 10, Craig Button 17, future considerations at 16. Even though you have some outlets that were a little bit further down there in terms of where they thought Kasper should have gone, the fact that he went 8th to Detroit isn't that bad of a move in my opinion. You know, Stevie Y and his Regla guys, the ones that he takes a little bit earlier than people think they should be drafted. Instead, they've worked out pretty well so far. Moritz Seider is the obvious one, who was taken 6th overall in the 2019 draft after he was supposed to go much later. But for Marco Kasper, he's a player that, if he really does translate as well into North America as he's playing in the SHL right now, I see no reason not to play this guy in somewhat of a third-line defensively responsible center role, because even though he is producing at the same rate as Lucas Raymond, the way his hockey brain is molded makes me feel really comfortable with the idea of playing him in a penalty-killing, second-line power play type of role where he's a lot more responsible on the finer things rather than just producing offense like first-line winger Lucas Raymond was last season, playing on a line with Larkin and Bertuzzi. So, for Marco Kasper, with the idea of him playing in the NHL next season just looming in the shadows, it's one that I can honestly say, I buy it. And if a Swedish journalist is going out there writing about that in his column in Swedish hockey outlets, then be my guest. I don't necessarily think it's that hot of a take. So let me know in the comments all your thoughts about Marco Kasper and the way he's played so far with the Regla BK. If you're a fan of Regla, what are your thoughts on his progression from last season up until now? Do you think his game is NHL ready? If you're a fan of the SHL in general, do you have any thoughts regarding Kasper and his relationship with Lucas Raymond? They have the exact same point production so far in the exact same games played. It's just Raymond's season was cut off a little bit from last year. Kasper is projected to play, let's say, 20-ish more games, so we'll see where exactly he goes with that. But thoughts in the comment section below, all your opinions about the Red Wings and their chance to develop this guy. I will say one more thing before we end this video off. The Red Wings have never really been the type to play guys 1 or 2 seasons immediately after getting drafted. Lucas Raymond was really the only guy that broke that mold, and you even saw it the next season uphold itself once again with Simon Edvinsson, who is not a Red Wing right now. He's down there in Grand Rapids. Now, you could say, of course, oh, defenseman versus forward, it's a little bit different, but when it comes to the forward development of these guys, I mean, take a look at Dylan Larkin. He's probably the last guy that was an immediate game changer after being a second-year draft player stepping into the Red Wing system, right? There isn't really anybody else, I think, that actually made the transition properly aside from Larkin and Raymond, but if Kasper does that next season, then he'll be a part of that list as well. So, talk in the comments your thoughts. What are your opinions about Kasper, his development, and whether or not he'll make the Red Wings next season? I hope you enjoyed this video, Charles 99. And bye.